Well, for more on this story, we're joined by Ardi Kolah. He's the director of Henley Business School's General Data Protection Regulation Programme. Good to speak to you. So what power does this rule give to people and their personal information?
Well, it's a great question. And in fact, the powers already exist. What's happened is they've been beefed up, if you like. So we've now got much more power to find out what's happening to our personal data, who's got it, whether they're sharing it with other third parties. But also, they're under a duty to be much more transparent and much more accountable to us as individuals in relation to the processing of that personal data. It's quite important that actually they only process enough personal data in order to provide us with a product or service and not more personal data that they require. And at the end of that purpose, they need to get rid of it.
So what would be the punishment for the companies who don't?
Well, if companies don't comply with the regulation, then depending on the nature of that breach, it could be quite serious. So let's say, for example, they weren't putting in place proper security around that processing that I was just describing, and there was a data breach, and that affected a large number of people and caused harm or damage to them. Things like discrimination, identity theft, financial theft, that kind of stuff. Then, dependent on whether they've actually taken steps to mitigate that post that event from happening, they could be liable to as much as 4% of their global turnover or 20 million euros, whichever is greater.
So we won't have another repeat of the recent Facebook saga?
Well, I wish that were true. What's happened is that Facebook with Cambridge Analytica have been found out. They've been doing what the US court actions against them are saying is they've been taking part in what's called surveillance capitalism. What that means is they've been monitoring and profiling people all around the world, been adding other bits of data to that profile and then selling it to a third party. Again, under the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, that's not permissible. Profiling doesn't necessarily need consent, but someone needs to know that being profiled, and they have the right to object to that from happening. In this case, that didn't happen. Sadly, this is something which happens a lot, and it's going to be quite interesting to see what cases come to court which actually then create, if you like, a system in place where if you were to carry out surveillance capitalism, these are the consequences and these are the fines, sanctions, and potentially compensation that people can claim going through the court system.
Well, thank you very much for that insight, Ardi Kolah.